Yo, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another grow update. Today we're taking a look at everything that's happened over the last 45 days of vegetative growth and where we're at now with these plants. We're officially 8 days into flowering, and I figured instead of only showing you what the plants look like today, we rewind a little bit, go back through the different stages that got us here. I'll show you how I did my watering and the training methods I used to shape the canopy, why I decided to top these plants, and finally where everything stands now that flower is underway. So let's start back in the middle of veg. Watering in the mid-vegetative stage. This is one of those topics that always doesn't get as much attention as things like topping or low-stress training. But in my opinion, watering is one of the biggest factors that can influence how your plants continue to develop. You can have good genetics, good lighting, and the right environment, but if your watering habits aren't keeping up with your plant's growth, you're making things harder than what they need to be. If you've been watching the previous videos, you already know I've been using a bottle cap watering method since these plants were seedlings. I like it because it lets me water slowly instead of dumping a large amount of water into one spot. It gives the growing medium time to absorb the moisture evenly. It helps prevent runoff too quickly and makes it easier to stay in control of how much water each plant receives. But here's the thing, a watering technique that used to work during the seedling stage isn't always going to be the best technique for your plants during the mid-vegetative stage. As these plants continue growing, the stems get thicker, the branches spread further out, and most importantly, the root systems expand throughout the container. That means your watering strategy has to grow right along with your plants. Early on, I mainly watered around the base of the plant, using slow circular motions because the roots were still concentrated near the center. Now that we're further into veg, the roots have spread much farther, so watering only around the stem isn't enough anymore. The bottle cap method still works great, but now I'm adjusting where I can apply the water so I'm reaching a much larger portion of the root zone. Instead of thinking about watering the stem, I'm thinking about watering the entire root system. The thing I've learned is that every grow is different. Two plants growing side by side can dry out at different speeds depending how large they are. It could be how much airflow they have and how dense the foliage has become. That's why I don't rely on strict watering schedules. Instead, I pay attention to what the plants are doing and the growing medium are telling me. As the plants get bigger, they'll naturally begin to use more water than they did just a week or two ago. Recognizing those changes and adjusting your routine is all a part of becoming a better grower. Watering isn't just about giving your plants something to drink, it's about supporting a healthy root development from start to finish. Healthy roots are what support strong stems, ferocious vegetative growth, and eventually a canopy that's ready to produce quality flowers later on. Alright, we're on to the next topic. Once the plants had enough size to work with, it was finally enough time to start shaping everything, do my training. But the purpose wasn't to hurt the plants, it was to encourage a more efficient shape and expose the additional growth sites to light. At first, the effects weren't as dramatic. A stem would be tied down and a branch would be repositioned. The plants looked slightly different, but nothing major seemed to change overnight. Then a few days later, the results became obvious. Growth tips that were once hidden beneath larger leaves began reaching towards the light. Side branches started behaving more like future tops. Areas of the plant that weren't receiving much light suddenly had an opportunity to develop. One of the coolest things about this stage has been watching the plants respond to the work being done. Instead of slowing down, they continue pushing forward and producing new growth. Every adjustment seemed to create a new opportunity for development. The topping process was another major moment during these 32 days. Topping can always be a little nerve-wracking because you're intentionally removing a growing tip that the plant worked hard to produce. But sometimes a short-term sacrifice leads to long-term rewards. After recovering from topping, the plants are redirecting the energy throughout their structure. Yet every plant has developed differently. Some naturally want to stay compact and bushy, others seem determined to stretch out a little more. Some recover from training faster than others. This is one of the reasons growing never gets boring. Every plant tells its own story. The environment inside the Spiderfarmer tent has also played a huge role throughout this journey. It helped me keep my environment consistent by controlling things like my inline fan, circulation fan, and other equipment from one system. Instead of constantly checking on everything manually, I can monitor my grow and let the controller help maintain temperature, humidity, which kept the plant stable environment throughout veg. Now we're going to rewind a little bit, take it back to the early vegetative stage, show you guys some training techniques that I did early on. For those who may not know, low stress training or LST is a process of slightly bending and positioning the branches to create a flatter, more even canopy. Instead of allowing a plant to grow straight upward with one dominant top, LST helps spread the plant outwards. This allows light to reach the areas that would normally be shaded, giving the lower growth sites a chance to develop into strong branches of their own. Another thing I really like about low stress training is that it's something any grower can do. You don't need expensive equipment or years of experience. All it takes is a little patience and consistency. As the plant grows, you continue adjusting your ties, guiding branches outward. Small adjustments over time can completely change the structure of your plant and help maximize the amount of usable growth throughout the canopy. Another major benefit of low stress training is airflow. When branches spread apart instead of packed up tightly together, air can move around more freely through the plant. Better airflow can help reduce moisture buildup and create a healthier environment overall. Combined with proper watering and environmental conditions, LST can play a huge role in developing a strong plant before the flowering begins. Once your plant has developed 5 healthy nodes and is growing ferociously, you can consider topping. Topping is the process of removing the main growth tip. While it may seem intimidating at first, topping is one of the most effective ways to encourage multiple main branches. Instead of focusing all of its energy on one central top, the plant redirects that energy into 5 growth points. When you combine topping with low stress training, that's where things really start to get interesting. After topping, you can continue bending and spreading out the new branches outward, helping create an even canopy filled with potential bud sites. Rather than ending up with one large cola, you'll have 5 smaller ones. You're encouraging the plant to develop multiple strong tops that all receive similar amounts of light. It's important to remember that every plant grows differently. Some plants recover quickly from training while others may need a little bit more time. That's why I always recommend paying attention to how your plant responds. Don't rush the process, let the plant recover when needed, and continue making small adjustments as it grows. As we move deeper into the vegetative stage, many growers start thinking about removing fan leaves. While there are situations where defoliation becomes beneficial, I personally like to use leaf tucking whenever possible before removing the leaves. Large fan leaves are essentially solar panels for your plant, and they play a major role in photosynthesis. Instead of cutting them off immediately, try gently tucking those leaves behind branches or underneath those growth sites. This simple technique allows light to reach lower parts of the plant while keeping those valuable leaves attached. A little leaf tucking can accomplish what you're trying to achieve without adding stress to the plant. The goal throughout veg is to create a more even canopy, maximize light exposure, encourage strong branch development, and prepare the plant for a successful flowering stage. So I flipped them into flower. Fast forward to today, now we're already 6 days into flowering. You can already see the stretch begin, new growth pushing upwards, and the early flower sites starting to form. From this point on, the goal is to keep everything consistent as possible, and I'll continue letting the GGS Smart ecosystem help maintain the environment while I focus on monitoring the plants and also making small adjustments as they continue developing through flower. I'm really excited to see how this growth finishes because the progress so far has been amazing. And if you've been following through this series from the beginning, thank you for sticking around, and I appreciate every one of you. And that right there pretty much sums everything up from how I started to how it's going. Make sure y'all tap that like button if you enjoyed this video, subscribe if you're new, and we are out.